Hey everyone, welcome to our ongoing development series for holistic mediumship. Over the last few weeks we've explored working with tarot cards, psi cards in particular, and then we're kind of making our way further into developing mediumship and also the holistic mediumship approach. So one of the questions I get asked time and time again every week is, how do you make contact with your spirit guide? How do you know who your spirit guide is? How do you reach your spirit guide? And I think it's a really important question, one that we can really get our teeth into. Also, once we've explored some of the practical applications of this, we're going to look at some more subscriber questions that have been sent in as well. So what I want to say about making contact with your spirit guide is that it's easier than you would ever believe. Okay, it's not as hard as you would think. Okay, there's a couple of things to really begin to grasp here. Is that if I said to you right now, close your eyes and think of a red telephone box, many of you would be able to do that. Yeah, many of you, as you kind of close your eyes, that impression starts to kind of come into your awareness. So what I want you to do right now is just kind of make sure that you're not going to be kind of disturbed for the next 10 minutes or so, okay? And what I want you to do is kind of take a nice deep cleansing breath in. Take a real deep cleansing breath in. Close your eyes and now think of a red telephone box. Okay, begin to allow that to just kind of seep into your awareness. Begin to notice the environment around it. What do you see? Many of you will be able to kind of begin to see that. Okay, you'll begin to notice the environment around it. For me, I see the red telephone box, I see a village green, I see a church, I see a pub. It's all very clear and vivid. Okay, we could say, and we would be right to say, that that's something that we're kind of creating within our imagination. Yes, there's something that's being co-created within our imagination. That is a very important point. So you bring your eyes open, bring yourself back to the room, back to the space. It's a really important point. But here is the thing, okay? This is so vitally important to begin to take the steps as you go forwards now, as we start to begin to kind of understand and we begin to make practical application towards contact, is that quite often spirit communication and spirit contact is absolutely just like our imagination. It seems, it feels, it kind of just has that almost that thin line between what seems to be our imagination and something else happening, but it comes exactly in the same way. Okay, so if I said to you right now, close your eyes, so take a nice deep cleansing breath, close your eyes. Have you got a spirit guide there? Listen to the answer. You've got a yes, you've got a no. Those of you who have got a yes, think about it. Is it male? Is it female? You're going to have an answer straight away. Okay, what do they begin to look like? Are they short, tall? You know, all of that is going to absolutely seem like that it's your imagination. Okay, but here's the thing, we've got to begin to trust that, you know, because quite often that contact is just that subtle. You know, I was explaining to someone this morning that nowadays, and you've heard me say this in the previous videos, that, you know, life is so quick, so rushed, so hurried, that when you come in through the door, you empty out your pockets, you empty out your mobile phone, you sit that next to your tablet sits next to your desktop, and your desktop sits next to your landline, and there is the TV on, and someone's sitting there listening to an iPod. You know, all of that is noise, and what spirit have got to do is cut through the noise. So they've got to kind of work a lot harder to impress upon us those very subtle pieces of information. So what we need to do is quieten down our world, okay, for them to kind of bridge that gap between them and us, us and them, okay. So that gap needs to kind of be bridged, and the way that gap is bridged is emptying your world of noise at times, so you can refine this and you can develop it. So no, the first thing to absolutely clearly understand is that it will feel like your imagination. And I'll give you some absolute really wonderful kind of examples of that towards the end of this video. Next, okay, we're going to look at kind of 3 steps, okay. So that'll be the first step. Okay, real hands-on practical steps to bring this together. That'll be the first step, is to know that it feels like your imagination. You've got to build that trust. You've got to build that kind of connection, knowing that yes, you're going to feel silly. Yes, that's made up. Yes, that's your imagination, but it isn't. Okay. Next, really important part of that is having a strong intention to do this. Okay, if you've got a strong intention to do this, they will meet that intention. Clear. And it's a bit like, you know, if you're training for a marathon or you're training for a 100-mile bike ride, is that you work towards it. Okay, you don't just go, right, that's what I'm going to do. Is you put in the time, you put in the energy, you put in the effort, you create the intention. Okay, so it is about making time for spirit to meet you. Okay, you know, don't kind of walk around and go, do you know what, I want to make contact, but you don't allow yourself to kind of silence your world or quieten your world, or you don't sit there and put the effort in. Okay, it's about meeting that as well. Okay, so intention. Importantly, step 2 is take the steps. Okay, so don't just listen to this video, don't just read about all of this, is actually take the steps and begin to practically apply it. Begin to practice with what you've read, what you're hearing, what you're being shared. Yeah, so take those steps, really, really important. I'm only here working at the level I do because I've kind of thrown myself into the deep end, or they threw me into the deep end, in the sharp end of all of this, and I've taken those steps. Okay, importantly, another kind of fundamental here, another step to kind of really kind of grasp, is do not have preconceived ideas. Okay, you might have a fascination of Native American Indians. You go to do your kind of meditation, you go kind of inward, you go to kind of reach out, you ask them to show themselves, and you start to get kind of glimpses of a chimney sweep, all covered in soot, all covered in ash, dirty clothing, you know, really hard working, very determined man, and you think to yourself, no, that can't be it, because I've always had a fascination with Native American Indians. But the fact of the matter, you were looking for a Native American Indian and a chimney sweep turned up, then that's got to count for something. And that to me would be really important. So try to kind of just gently dissolve any preconceived ideas you have or you've got, and make room to meet this without a kind of expectation as much as you can. And if you kind of look at that chimney sweep, that could be such a golden piece of information encoded in just that imagery, and that symbology is a huge powerful message. Maybe you need that fortitude, that strength, that kind of backbone, you know, to kind of move through a time or a chapter or a phase or an experience within your life. Yeah, know that those kind of answers as well, kind of those kind of, you know, pieces of information normally come back very quickly and very fast. I remember sitting there one day approaching this many years ago, and approaching this and kind of saying, you know, reaching out and saying, okay, closing my eyes and reaching out and saying, is there anyone there? Okay, that archetypal question, is there anyone there? And with lightning speed, what come back to me was this voice saying no. It made me laugh. It also made me jump because I didn't expect it. And again, that's what I'm saying. It can't be. Then at that level, there's an element, there's an ingredient that it can't be your imagination. Okay, it just can't be your imagination. And it did. It made me jump. And the fact of the matter, someone said no, that made me laugh, and that tells us that there's something there. Yeah, really beautiful. You'll see behind me, okay, the painting on the bottom. Okay, you can just make that out. Okay, there you go, you've got it. The painting on the bottom, that is one of my most wonderful spirit guides. Okay, and I'll talk to you as we go forwards in some of the future development weekly kind of insights. I'll share a little bit more about her. Okay, but I remember when she first started to show herself, and I could feel her presence around, and I can't start to see it, and it was amazing. But I'm going to share more about that as we go forward. The psychic artist that picked her up for me, beautiful story. But I remember kind of asking and saying to her, you know, what are you about? Who are you? And what are you about? And her reply to me was, who are you and what are you about? And I then spent the next 3 years really exploring and answering that question. You know, they often teach us by answering our questions with a question. Okay, really powerful that was. It was like, who are you and what are you about? In fact, Shane, who are you and what are you about? Okay, really, really powerful. Hopefully that's given you a lot to think about. I'm just going to kind of touch upon some of the subscriber questions that have come in as well. And then next week we're going to do a practical guided meditation. Okay, we're going to do a guided meditation based on what I've just kind of shared with you today. Gemma's kind of put some really thought-provoking questions out to us. Do spirits come when they just want to relay a message to a loved one, or do they get spirits who just want to talk? In my experience, you know, spirit often always say that they only but come with an intention, with a purpose. All of this is not just about entertainment. It's not just to see who my spirit guide is because I'm curious. That is not what interests spirit, and it certainly doesn't interest me. What it's about is moving people forwards in life, and it's also about, you know, spirit often say all of this has to grow corn. So, you know, they always, if they're there, there's a message within that. You know, it may be that they are emanating comfort, they may emanating support, so there's not much that's been said, but within the presence itself there's a huge amount of information, and there's 1,001 words. Okay, but there's always going to be an intention underneath it. It's always having a purpose, and it's always growing corn. Okay, they don't just appear. You know, if you kind of come across someone that's kind of passed traumatically, that might feel like it's not quite making sense because the way they passed could have been, you know, kind of rushed or traumatic, you know, kind of something suddenly has happened, so it could feel a little bit confused. But absolutely, generally, it's all about growing corn. It all has purpose. Gemma says that I've also gone into a meditative space to raise my vibration, and I've seen a face. Perfect. You're probably beginning to see your spirit guide. Hopefully you'll listen to this, and this will start to piece together some of what you're practically applying. Seen a face just this last week in my mind's eye. That's the other important thing, is we see it inwardly, don't always see it outwardly. As I was travelling through like a tunnel, is that normal? It scared me a bit. Absolutely. You know, it's the impression showing itself to you. The tunnel feeling is quite natural. So many people kind of experience that, or kind of see that, or feel that. And if you kind of look at your third eye, normally it's a circular feeling. Sometimes see people see colours emanated, so it's this circular, you know, you've heard that archetypal kind of story over and over again, people seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and even that kind of metaphor, you know, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There you go, guys. A little bit longer than normal, but I think it's worth its weight in gold. If you do have any questions on development, please do comment below. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find daily content on Spirit Meets Adventure. On Facebook, links are within the video. And if you're watching this on Spirit Meets Adventure, you're on a whole wealth of resources. Do go over and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Cheers, guys. Speak soon. Bye bye.